Welcome back, troglodytes, to the Trogly's Guitar Show. Oh my goodness, do not adjust your monitor. I have to do this episode backwards because we have the first Lefty guitar on the channel. Well, in the modern era anyways. I've had a 74 custom in Lefty. I've had a 74 SG.
Hey troglodytes, welcome back to another episode of Trogly's Guitars.
As well as a different 85.
And hey, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.
But today we have a black 1985 SG Standard that has been converted to be played as a righty. Now, if you're a lefty yourself, you're probably screaming at your screen right now, why did somebody do that? We only have so many lefties. Because usually it's the other way around. Left-handed players will convert righties into lefties. Not as common to see it done the other way around, but this was just too quirky not to do. So first, let's do a little bit of history here. This is a 1985 model. That's kind of a significant year because that's the last year for the Norlin era. But the coolest thing about 80s SGs is notice, well, besides these two gaping holes on the front that we'll discuss later, there's no output jack on the front. It is properly put on the side. Now, some people love this, like me, and some people hate it. But if that's the one complaint you've always had about an SG is you hate the front output jack, well, find yourself an 80s SG because they have it on the side. Another interesting topic for these ones is they can have two different pickups once you start to get to the mid-80s. You can either find the tarbacks, which are like this one, and SGs have had tarbacks since 1972 at this point. But they start to fade away in 85, and some of these will have the Tim Shaw PAFs, and those are usually slightly more desirable simply because those pickups sell for more used. But allow me to ruin SGs for you like I did for this other viewer. This side of the horn has always been bigger, but I never personally see it until I see a Lefty SG, and then it's just clear as day. But, you know, go ahead, let's take a look at this righty. Yep, sure enough, the horn's bigger on that side too. It's kind of funny how many people don't realize that. And another thing that a surprising amount of people don't know about is your bridges are actually tilted. They're not completely straight. And when you look at a Lefty, you can be like, yeah, I guess you're right. It is tilted. Now, does that affect the intonation if you're going from left to right and right to left? Potentially. We'll find out later if this one intonates or not on the bench. So what exactly do you have to do in order to convert a guitar to be played the opposite way? Well, you should change out your saddles. That way they're properly filed. I don't believe this was done on that one. And you have to change your nut for the exact same reason. But besides that, there's not much else you have to do. So if you're a lefty and you need this reconverted, it'll cost you about $200 to have somebody put a new nut on, put your new saddles on there, and then you're good to go. But since this is a lefty being played as a righty, those knobs are right where your arm rests. So what somebody has done is they've rewired this as a master volume, master tone, and ditched these other controls. That way it's comfortable. So if you wanted to restore that, yeah, probably throw another $100 or so on there. And then you can play this as a lefty again. But for now, we get to play this as a super cool lefty converted to righty status. So now that we know a little bit about what happened to this guitar, let's go ahead, throw it on the workbench, and see what it's made of. All taken apart, here's what we've got. We have the original Bill Lawrence tarback pickups here. Now if you scrape all that tar off, a lot of times you'll find that Gibson patent number, that 2737 or whatever it is. You can see the sticker for this one is worn off over the ages, but this one still has it. And this follows the Shaw date codes. So 595, I believe that designates the model. But what you're most interested in is the 84, meaning 1984. And here's what your pickup cavities look like. You can see where the channel was originally routed for the pickups to go through. And then this cavity looks like that. So nothing too interesting in there. Something to mention with this bridge pickup is these three screws, they just keep turning forever. So that probably means there was a longer screw in there at one point in time. Now, is the pickup completely secure? Yes, I'm trying to rip that thing out so you don't have anything to worry. But when you're trying to take them out, it's a bit of a pain because you have to apply upward force as well as turn it to get them to release. As far as the pickups go, the neck pickup reads 4.76 k ohms, and the bridge pickup is 7.18, which is correct for the super humbucking tarbacks. The bridge is your standard Nashville style, so you have studs that are in the body, and here's what the bridge itself looks like. It'll say made in Germany on this side because they are Schaller made in this era. The tailpiece on this one appears to have been replaced. This does not look like a Gibson style to me. I went ahead and removed the pickguard because people do scary stuff under SG pickguards. I mean, check out this Frank Zappa one. And you can also look at this really old video when I started doing this whole guitar business again. You could find some really interesting like switches and routing under pickguards, but this one is completely clean. You can see the old outline because, well, who really takes the pickguards off of their SGs? Not too many people. The lovely output jack on the side, and we have Dunlop strap buttons on this one. Here you can see the back strap block is actually a Schaller. So they've mixed Dunlop and Schaller buttons. That's interesting. Rosewood fretboard on this example is beautiful. I believe I cleaned and conditioned this one about 2 weeks ago. You can see that there is some very minor flattening to the frets. Nothing you're really going to have to worry about right away. I'd say your worst frets are maybe like your second and third, where there's a little bit more flattening than the others. But you've got a long way to go with these frets yet. The nut has been replaced with a black one. It feels like it's slightly smaller than the stock nut. There's a small feel difference, but I mean, once you're playing, you don't notice it. And when the plain black truss rod cover is removed, you can see your truss rod on this one. It has been adjusted quite a bit. It is very stiff to turn this one right now. But when the threads start to show past the nut, that means in the near future you should consider resetting the truss rod. I'll go ahead and link an article from Stu Mac where I first learned about that even being an issue. Essentially, to fix that, you have to clamp your neck down and untighten the truss rod completely, and then you tap that back in, and then you add a little washer under here. It's a fairly minor job, but you know, it might seem huge to you, but I do want you to be aware of that. It appears we have like an SW initial under there. 80s SGs have the crown, sometimes referred to as a wheat stack, but I believe crown is the correct term. I think they look like little frogs. And then you have the Gibson logo inlaid in mother of pearl. This has the traditional Gibson 24 3/4 inch scale length with a 1.68 inch nut width, and at the 12th fret it's 2.03 inches. First fret neck depth 0.79 inches and 0.97 at the 12th. So as we were talking earlier with this bridge at a different slant than normal, let's go ahead and check the intonation here. So open E, pretty much in tune there. Then at the 12th fret, looks pretty good. A, a little flat, but we've got room to adjust that. D, good there. G, good there. B, good there. And top E. So surprisingly, yes, this still intonates for a right-handed guitar pretty okay. On the back here, we can at least see this screw has been replaced, maybe even that one. And with that cover removed, here's what we got. It looks like two 500K pots with a 3-way toggle switch. I'm not going to say any of this is original. It's likely all been replaced. So professional job as far as working, but I'm sure it could have been done to look cleaner. But this is just a pure mahogany body with a mahogany neck. Back of the neck here, no breaks, cracks, or repairs, but the tuners have been swapped from the Kluson Gibson Deluxe style to a newer style Grover. And let me tell you, these things are nice and tight. They are great tuners. You have your Made in USA stamp with your traditional serial number dating to 1985. This example weighs 6 pounds, 13.8 ounces. Before we get to the playing demo, let's talk about how it actually feels to play this thing upside down. Thankfully, we have these controls removed, otherwise they would be very uncomfortable. But the only downside that I'm really seeing is your toggle switch is in an inopportune location. It kind of makes it hard to switch positions really quickly. You can kind of brush it with your arm if you're lucky, but I also find at the same time you're also rolling your volume down a little bit while you're doing that. The only other downside to this is your lead kind of sticks out a little bit. Now obviously you could do a 90-degree angled one and that won't be as much of an issue. I could see if you're playing up like this, maybe you accidentally hit that, you might crack the guitar, so that could be a downside. But let's go ahead and hear how this one sounds. I'm sitting simply because of the mixed match strap locks. Now that we know how this instrument sounds, let's go ahead and review its condition. Alright, face of the headstock here, we've got quite a few scratches and nicks and dings as you can see. We discussed the truss rod, how the threads are starting to show at the top on the bench demo, and the nut has been replaced as we talked about earlier. You do have some finish blemishes from that. You can see that the veneer is kind of cracking around the headstock. Now nothing's like separating or anything, but there is some visual blemishes. A pretty sizable ding right there. So this is definitely not a collector's Lefty by any means. Rosewood fretboard is in good shape. You have your small block inlays. It's around like 86 when they start to bring back the trapezoids. You just have very light fret wear on this one. Nothing you necessarily have to worry about right now. You might want to adjust the action lower or higher to your preference, but you definitely have room on the bridge to do either way yet. There's quite a few noticeable nicks and dings to this guitar. It was definitely heavily played, but beautiful black finish here. I'm not really sure when black started to come into play because you could not find black on an SG Standard during the 70s. I believe it's the 80s when it came out, but you could find SG Specials, which were basically a Standard but with dot inlays in this era. They also had a different neck profile to them. But no breaks, cracks, or repairs to this example. You've just got, your average nicks and dings and whatnot. Backside of the headstock, serial number looks like 80305574, made in USA. Again, you have quite a few nicks and dings towards the top of the headstock, but tuners have been swapped. You have some scratches and some gunk kind of built up there. You could clean that off if you wanted to. There's also some impressions on the neck right here. Nothing that I really felt while playing the guitar, but you know, there is some stuff there. And the back, it's got buckle worming and scratches, as you'll see as we shine the light over it here. Take a quick look around the edges here. Got some impressions and marks. Strap buttons have been replaced for a Dunlop in the bottom position and a Schaller in the neck. Face of the headstock is glowing the way I'd want to see. You can see the few marks there. Body of the instrument is also looking good. You can see it definitely did a lot of time being played as a Lefty. It's got some sweat absorption spots there. I believe the owner of this one said he's owned it for about 11 years in this status. But here you can easily see those nicks and dings into the black finish. I can touch those up for you if you want me to, but I thought it kind of looked good in this aged vibe. Everything's looking good on the back. Take a quick look around the edges. Everything is looking good there. And the back of the neck. Everything passes the Blacklight test here. What's kind of cool here is this guitar does still retain its original case. You have all three latches working. These are the metal variety, but you are missing the Gibson case emblem. But the interior is this nice blue color. I swept this case out and it's looking pretty good now. And you can tell it's the original case because, hey, how many Lefty imprints have you ever seen in a chainsaw case? So everything's looking good here. You could re-glue the sides a little bit, but honestly they stay up pretty good as is. Inside the compartment here, you have a little piece of Gibson candy and the name of the guy that did the Lefty conversion on this thing. If you think you might be interested in being the next owner of this Gibson SG Standard Lefty from 1985, feel free to check out that link in the description that will take you to the Reverb for Sale ad. Thank you, Troglodytes, for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.